really Happy New Year to everyone. And hello to Faye and to Nock and Ollie and everybody, Nancy Hughes, Jax, everybody that's, I know, probably going to see this. Tonight's finish, and the reason I wanted to stop where we stopped 2 weeks ago, is what we're going to discuss for the rest of this particular lecture. And again, tonight we're finishing off the workings of Brahma and Chakra from volume 4 of the writings of Teachings for Victory. And the last time we left off on actually page 106, and I'd already gone over to confronting difficulties with delight. But I'm going to go back to page 105, all right, to make a, because what it says on page 106 is important, and I want to keep the whole thought coming. But again, the point is that what we're going to discuss tonight is so important for you to understand that please don't just listen to what I say or what President Ikeda has written here. You really need to take to heart the message that this is going to convey and go chant Daimoku starting now to understand it with your whole life. All right? Because the reason a lot of people go Titan later in practice is because they achieve the 5th stage, okay? And the only thing between them and the 6th stage of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhai is not giving up, okay? It's very difficult to practice your whole life and not give up. That's not an easy thing to do. It's already prescribed in the sutra as not going to be an easy thing to do. It's going to be a difficult thing to do. So what would make it difficult if you've progressed continuously and you understand profound things? Shit happening. Shit that shouldn't happen based on what you're doing, how you're practicing, how much Daimoku. I mean, everything you're trying to create for your life, you're doing for the sake of establishing fortune, right? You're trying to mitigate issues of challenge, right? The key is to understand that those issues of challenge are really your good friend. They always have been. They're the thing that has been propelling you on to this stage of your faith and practice. Okay, and it's this stage of faith and practice, it's important that you understand this reality. Because Daisaku Ikeda had not gotten around to making the kinds of declarations that he does now, and that he shall in this lecture 30 or 40 years ago. I mean, so if you encountered this endless succession of challenge and difficulty, regardless, if you're thinking that you're going to get to a place where that all disappears, you could become very disillusioned waiting for that to happen, right? And especially, too, because what we're talking about here with devilish functions, this cannot be approached or defeated through knowledge or just, understanding, okay? The only time this clicks and is gotten shed of in the appropriate way is in front of the Gohonzon, through sincere Daimoku, okay? As the Buddha in your present form, okay? Because this shit doesn't happen to anybody but bodhisattvas of the earth. And bodhisattvas of the earth are all Buddhas, okay? Whether they've realized it or not, they will at some point in time realize they always have been the Buddha. Because if they're bodhisattvas of the earth, they're on this path that's going to take them to stage 6 of practice anyhow, right? So that's what Daisaku Ikeda is going to try and break through and qualify to us, because it's never clearly qualified elsewhere. And that's why also, when we talk about Nichiren Buddhism, there's tons of people that say they can tell you about Nichiren Buddhism. There's only a single source for the Soka philosophy. And that's the Soka Gakkai, and it's really Daisaku Ikeda and the first 3 presidents, okay? So there's a specific message here in the Soka philosophy and in this Teachings for Victory. That's why these are called Teachings for Victory. What is the victory? That you got a benefit? No, that is that you attain Buddhahood in your lifetime, and you carry that faith to the very last moment of your life, okay? And you establish Buddhahood forever. You became the badass that you always have been, all right? So, with that preamble, please chant Daimoku about what you're going to hear tonight. Don't just hear it and think, okay, now I got a better idea of it, because this is what will confuse you. And without a real understanding of it, when it hits you, you won't know. Go get in front of the Gohonzon. That's the only thing you can do to make this change. Okay? And when you do that, you will feel joy. When you do that, the confusion will be eliminated. When you do that, the clarity will come back. That's when living in the 9 worlds as the Buddha in your present form occurs, really. Right? And only comes because those devilish functions attacked you, and then you went to go kick their ass in front of the Gohonzon. That was the motivation factor. Right? So they're your friend, not your enemy. And it's not your bad karma. This is the other thing that I want to make sure that we understand before we read the rest of this. When this shit happens, these devils are not a reflection of bad karma. Right. These devils are a reflection of good karma. They only attack those that have achieved this 5th stage of practice. Okay? Do you understand? Everybody's with me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to 105, second column. It says, making unceasing efforts to strengthen our faith. Now, why is he emphasizing that again? Because we have to make these unceasing efforts to strengthen our faith, because we have to get stronger, because what's ahead of us as we go along this process of going from being a Buddha in theory to Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi is that the issues become more and more challenging. Okay? They're not more difficult, because you always have the ability to overcome them. Okay? But to perceive their true nature, and in that process not only mitigating for yourself, but now you can teach. Now you can encourage people from a first-person standpoint. You're not reading someone else's understanding and saying, this is what they say. You can talk about your own life. I'm talking about my own life when I'm talking about this right now. I just, today is the last freaking day I wanted to have a meeting. Okay? I was attacked by devilish functions to the max today. Okay? Thanks to my wife, I was able to overcome them. We're here. We're talking. We're continuing. The determination that had been made 2 weeks ago didn't get stopped by devilish functions. Okay? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Okay. Well, let me start reading so I don't confuse you anymore with what I'm saying. Okay. Top of page 105, second column. Making unceasing efforts to strengthen our faith. Shakyamuni, however, overcame these obstacles and finally expounded the Lotus Sutra. Not even the most insidious workings of the devil king of the 6th heaven can extinguish the Buddha's wish to help all living beings attain enlightenment. So in other words, the devil can never win when you're the Buddha. All right? Buddha is another name for one who conquers devilish functions. So if you conquer devilish functions, you are the Buddha in your present form, period. It doesn't take Shakyamuni or Nichiren to be that person. In the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni states, since hatred and jealousy toward the sutra abound even when the thus come one is in the world, how much more will this be so after his passing? In other words, the persecutions that the enemies of the Lotus Sutra will launch against its practitioners in the evil age after Shakyamuni's death will be far worse than those experienced during his lifetime. The Buddha is addressing disciples of genuine commitment who will stand up in the challenging age of the latter day of the law to lead people to enlightenment. The Buddha is addressing the bodhisattvas of the earth. All right? He's not addressing people that will not sustain faith to the last moment of their life. They may have the karmic fortune to encounter the law, but they may not be able to sustain faith to the last moment of their life. If they don't do that, then they were not bodhisattvas of the earth. He is addressing those that will sustain faith to the last moment of their life. After noting this, Nichiren saying what Shakyamuni had qualified, Nichiren says that from the time Shakyamuni expounded the Lotus Sutra to the present, it would seem that no one has lived it as the Buddha himself did. Even the great teachers Tentai and Dingyo, he points out, did not experience persecutions as harsh as those Shakyamuni did. Neither of them was persecuted by the ruler of the state, attacked by sword-brandishing multitudes, or verbally abused by the entire nation, like Shakyamuni, as Nietzsche ultimately then found himself being. The devil, the President Kata goes on, first column, page 106 at the top. The devil, king of the sixth heaven, is the function of fundamental darkness or ignorance, the most fundamental illusion inherent in life. And what is that devil, king of the sixth heaven, and that delusion and that ignorance of? About? What is it an ignorance of, or a delusion about, that's inherent in life? Your true identity. Your true identity, what it always has been. It's always been the 10th world has existed in the 9 worlds you live in, just like it does for everybody else on earth. Okay? The devil king of the sixth heaven is the function of fundamental darkness. What's the function of the fundamental darkness? To obscure your practice and to keep you from attaining Buddhahood, right? So the devil king is the function. The function. So what's the function? Is the devil king a dude? No, it's all the shit that blows you away, that knocks you off course, that screws with you, that makes you wonder why. When I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing, I'm being attacked. Okay? It's the lack of wisdom at that crucial moment that keeps you from perceiving the truth as it actually exists. That's why you can only really perceive it. You got to get in front of the Gohonzon. This isn't about becoming smarter. This is about deepening your faith and being a bodhisattva of the earth, a Buddha in your present form. Okay, he says that he continues then in that first paragraph, first column, page 106. Until this is overcome, there can be no true victory, because until you overcome fundamental darkness, you can't become the Buddha in your present form. If you haven't become the Buddha in your present form, that's the only true victory. Getting benefits is not a true victory. Those are temporary. True victory is everlasting. It's eternal. That's what we're talking about. All right? Nietzsche states the single word belief is the sharp sword with which one confronts and overcomes fundamental darkness or ignorance, from the orally transmitted teaching. So what is that saying? Faith is how we do this. Okay, faith is the only means to achieve this. As this passage indicates, belief or faith in the mystic law is the only force that can overcome this fundamental darkness. That's why I said, please, you got to go chant Daimoku about what's being discussed in this lecture. This is not about understanding a concept. This is about awakening a life state that exists within you, right? As I have mentioned, President Kata continues, Buddhism is first and last. First and last. What does that mean? It is nothing more and nothing less than this constant struggle between the inherent nature of fundamental darkness and the inherent nature of Buddhahood. That's all life is. And we all have different manners in which we manifest that truth and experience it. I have mentioned Buddhism is first and last a struggle between the Buddha and devilish functions. That is why it is crucial for us to make unceasing efforts. That means we can never take a vacation. We never get to the point where they go away. Unceasing efforts to strengthen our faith and manifest our Buddha nature means that doesn't stop until we die. Okay? Please chant about this. As Nietzsche says, strengthen your faith day by day, month after month. Should you slacken in your resolve even a bit, devils will take advantage. So no matter how many years you've been practicing, no matter how diligently you've tried, if devils attack and they succeed in knocking you off the horse and you don't jump back on, and to jump back on the horse means to get in front of the Gohonzon and chant sincere Daimoku to understand what the hell you're going through. To perceive it with your own Buddha nature. Okay? Those devils will take advantage. You will find your faith affected. These words are our eternal guidelines, Daisaku Ikeda writes. Wow. Okay. Eternal guidelines. Precisely because it was a time when his followers, as a whole, were facing various challenges and obstacles, Nichiren no doubt wanted to teach Tokimitsu, the spirit, to keep on fighting the way of faith and practice that can triumph over devilish functions. This letter overflows with the Daishonin's wish that his young disciple grow into an individual of genuine commitment in faith with the strength to overcome any adversity, which is exactly what Daisaku Ikeda wants himself in stating that in that last sentence. This lecture overflows with the Daishonin, with Daisaku Ikeda's wish that his young disciples grow into an individual of genuine commitment and faith with the strength to overcome any adversity. He wants us all to be able to practice throughout our life, to the last moment of our life, and to express the truth of this Buddhism by expressing Buddhahood in our present form. Now I'll continue from where I left off 2 weeks ago on page 106. Confronting difficulties with delight. And what does he have about delight? He's got it in quotation marks. Okay? So, what does he mean by the word delight when he puts them in quotation marks in that connotation? With the wisdom, with the mind of the Buddha, because the mind of the Buddha perceives adversity as benefit, as progress, as his responsibility. Do you think adversity doesn't hurt if you know all that? Do you think adversity isn't difficult if you already all know all that? No, but we do not begrudge our lives. We've actually taken a vow and we've created the karma that we're appropriately expressing in our life, right? We've said, I can handle this, whatever it is we're dealing with, right? So delight is that realization that you're fulfilling your mission as a bodhisattva of the earth. Where does that come from? Only daimoku in front of the Gohonzon. It's mental masturbation anywhere else. You may understand that. But unless you're in front of the Gohonzon, you can't really have it expressed in your life. That's where the delight, you're going to find the delight in front of the Gohonzon when you're going through these things. Okay? It really is truly joy. And it's not stuff that was joyful before you sat down in front of the Gohonzon and came to the realization of what's really going on. And then it turned into joy. It's very strange. But it does, because you flip the miserableness of the devilish functions in the lower nine and flip it to the 10th world perspective, and suddenly you realize, oh yeah, what the heck am I thinking? And it suddenly does become joy. And suddenly your whole daimoku to the Gohonzon becomes different. It comes from a different place. Is everybody with me? You all understand exactly what I'm saying, right? Yeah. That's what he's talking about. Okay, so here's from the Gosho again. Confronting difficulties with delight. When a tiger roars, gales blow. When a dragon intones, clouds gather. Yet a hare's squeak or a donkey's bray causes neither winds nor clouds to arise. He's saying, when you're a bodhisattva of the earth, you can do anything. When you're not, nothing's going to happen. That's what that's saying. As long as the foolish read the Lotus Sutra and the worthy lecture on it, the country will remain quiet and undisturbed. He says, so prior to me, it was one thing, but now that's changed. But it is stated that when a sage emerges, he's speaking of himself, and preaches the Lotus Sutra exactly as the Buddha did. He's speaking of himself. The nation will be thrown into an uproar, which is what has hit the fan now, right? Because he's now preaching the Buddhism of sowing. It's never existed prior to now, right? This teaching is a departure from previous understandings of the Lotus Sutra. The Lotus Sutra, exactly as the Buddha did, the nation will be thrown into an uproar and persecutions greater than those during the Buddha's lifetime will arise. Now, when those persecutions, like, the Asahara persecution, there were executions that occurred. Is he talking about that's supposed to be delightful? No. But with the correct wisdom, to know that you give your life for the law, trust me, you will perceive that as delight in the correct state of mind. He's saying, now I am not a worthy. He's diminishing himself amidst all the other people that have already said he doesn't know what he's talking about, let alone a sage. So he's going with it. He says, in fact, I am the most perverse person in the world. So he's just qualifying himself from the perspective of saying, what I'm saying because I think I'm the smartest person, or I'm the best person, or I'm the cleanest person. Do you understand? Because he's saying that has nothing to do with this. So it doesn't matter if I'm not a worthy. It doesn't matter if I'm not a sage. And it doesn't matter if I'm the most perverse person in the world, is what he just said. And that applies to you as well. However, my actions, your actions, if you're practicing correctly, seem to be in exact accord with what the sutra teaches. This is what the Soka philosophy teaches us to behave as, right? Therefore, whenever I meet difficulties, I am more delighted than if my deceased parents had returned to life, or than one who sees the person who one hates meet with some mishap. Now, if he were not feeling the feelings of human being, could he qualify that he knows what it means to feel joy at seeing the person that you hate meet it with a mishap? He's saying this is common mortal, 9-world stuff allows you to become the Buddha. I am overjoyed. He says, okay, listen to it again. He's saying, I am not a worthy. Now, I am not a worthy. So is he saying, I'm a 9-world person? And it's saying, right? Let alone a sage. I'm a 9-world person, right? I am the most perverse person in the world. I'm a 9-world person. However, my actions seem to be in exact accord with what the sutra teaches. Therefore, I'm able to bring forth my Buddha nature whenever I meet difficulties, and it makes me more delighted than if my deceased parents had returned to life, or than one who sees the person one hates meet with some difficulty. I am overjoyed that I, according to the sutra, a foolish man, according to all of you, should be regarded as a sage, according to the sutra, by the teachings Shakyamuni has left for the latter day. You with me? Everybody understands what he just said in that Gosha passage, right? All right, so in this section, the Daishonin describes the true joy with which genuine practitioners of the Lotus Sutra live their lives. When he says genuine practitioners, he's talking about bodhisattvas of the earth. And he's talking about the kind of faith where you do chant Daimoku every day to the Gohonzon. You do reestablish and continue that relationship with the Gohonzon, okay, as a disciple for the sake of the law. The important point here is that the Daishonin's definition of who is foolish and who is a sage is not based on worldly evaluations. For instance, people throughout the land regard him as a perverse person, he says, that he has devoted himself to propagating the mystic law and undergone persecution exactly as described in the Lotus Sutra, however, qualifies him to be viewed as a sage by the Buddha. In contrast, he notes, if those revered by the world as people of wisdom are in the eyes of the Buddha, like Devadatta, they will suffer terribly in future lives. Here, Nichiren is referring to such individuals of Ryokan, of Kurakuji Temple, and his followers who are hostile to Nichiren and brought suffering to the people. In other words, what matters from the Buddhist perspective is whether one perceives in accord with his teachings. Now, what he says here, though, do understand, he says, in other words, what matters from the Buddha's perspective, what Buddha are we talking about? Are we practicing the Buddhism of the harvest here? Is any of this Buddhism of the harvest perspective? No. So when we talk about, in other words, what matters from the Buddhist perspective, we're talking about Buddhism of sowing, we're talking about Nichiren, we're talking about the original Buddha, the original teacher, I would rather qualify it as, okay? In other words, what matters from the original teacher's perspective is whether one practice is in accord with his teachings, Nichiren's teachings. The Daishonin underscores this point when he refers to preaching the Lotus Sutra as exactly as Shakyamuni did, as the Buddha did, and acting in exact accord with what the sutra teaches. He goes on to state that he is delighted to have read the sutra with his life by encountering great difficulties in the course of propagating the mystic law. Because what has he been able to accomplish? What is it that he says he did that Dengyo and Tendai had not? I've been attacked by the three powerful enemies. He had met the three powerful enemies and defeated the three powerful enemies. Okay? That's the same thing that President Ikeda is saying that the presidents of Soka have done by dying in prison, by devoting their life to the point that they ended up sacrificing their health and created a brand new movement and perspective of understanding that we are all bodhisattvas of the earth and therefore all Buddhas in our present form. Took Nichiren's teaching from the theoretical and actualized it in a manner that we are all utilizing, which is called the Soka philosophy, right? So he says, the Daishonin underscores this point when he refers to the preaching the Lotus Sutra exactly as the Buddha did, which is what the three presidents are talking about in the Soka philosophy, and acting in exact accord with what the sutra teaches, which is again exactly what the three presidents preached. Even though the Nichiren schools were not doing that, because it was too hard to do that. It was over the normal people's heads. He goes on to state he's delighted to have read the sutra with his life by encountering great difficulties in the course of propagating the mystic law. The joy of reading the sutra with one's life, of putting its teachings into practice, is the joy of working to actualize the Buddha's wish to lead all people to enlightenment, is functioning as a bodhisattva of the earth. That means joining forces with the other bodhisattvas of the earth, right? It is the joy of striving exactly as the Buddha did, or of carrying on the same struggle as the Buddha, as his emissary. There is no greater joy in life than practicing the supreme teaching of Buddhism and enabling those around us to reveal their Buddha nature. So what does that say? There is no greater joy in life than practicing the supreme teaching of Buddhism. Does he stop there? No. Because if you don't add the second part, and enabling those around us to reveal their Buddha nature, you're never going to know the joy of practicing the supreme teaching of Buddhism according to the way it's supposed to be practiced based on the teaching of Nichiren. Do you follow? Without that second part, you can't really be the Buddha in your present form. You have got to lead others to the same life state you've been led to. And you didn't get there without being led there. This is an accidental discovery. This is the mentor-disciple relationship in action. Okay? Everybody's with me? If I sound too dramatic, I'm sorry. This is a really important thing I'm trying to express here. As for us, as SGI members on the bottom of page 107, first column, this is the joy of promoting Kosen Rufu, fulfilling our mission as bodhisattvas of the earth by creating happiness for ourselves and others through dialogue. For us as SGI members, this is the joy of promoting Kosen Rufu, fulfilling our mission as bodhisattvas of the earth by creating happiness for ourselves and others through dialogue is a source of incomparable joy. Certainly it is. I'm enjoying myself. through the example of his own struggles. And that's what it should always be based on. Our understanding is based on our life. Okay? Through the example of his own struggles. We don't count on there to be somebody else that goes through this so we can say, see how it is for them? No, it's how it is for us. Nichiren taught Tokimitsu the joy of propagating the mystic law. In other letters to his young disciple, he writes, if people try to hinder your faith, I urge you strongly to feel joy. Okay? I urge you strongly to have the wisdom to perceive that this is occurring because you're practicing correctly. Though others may slander us, we are teachers of the law who take no heed of such thing. From WND2, page 501. I don't know which Gosho that is specifically, but the Daishonin is expressing himself in that Gosho. Though others may slander us, we are teachers of the law. And in the orally transmitted teachings, he says, we are not only teachers of the law, we are the foremost teachers of the law in the entire land of Jampavipa, in the entire latter day, which is eternal. Okay? No matter what others think, or if they speak ill of us, which is why I don't give a shit what anybody says when I say what I say. No matter what others think or if they speak ill of us, as long as our convictions and actions accord with the correct teachings, we have nothing to fear. In our youth, we tend to be overly concerned about what others think about us. But what really matters is how we live our lives, because you got to get to the end of it before any of it mattered. Mr. Toda often said, you should seek to win favor with the Daishonin. Wow. Because that's it. If you base your life constantly on a real first-person relationship with Nichiren Daishonin, which you have the capacity to if you perceive the Gohonzon correctly. Okay? When I'm in front of the Gohonzon, I understand it's a piece of paper. But it's also an expression of the life state of the original teacher. Okay? I have the ability to have a personal relationship, a vertical relationship with Nichiren Daishonin because he inscribed the Gohonzon. That's the cool thing. That's what Mr. Toda is saying in this paragraph that Mr. Ikeda is telling us about. Look at all these freaking stars I have along here. Mr. Toda often said you should seek to win favor with the Daishonin because what is that? That's the true mentor-disciple relationship. The true mentor-disciple relationship is the original teacher and the original disciples. Who are the original disciples? The bodhisattvas of the earth. We all just came straggling out, manifesting at different times because of the immensity of what we're about to try to accomplish. Okay? But that's what he's talking about. We should seek favor. We should seek to win favor with our original teacher, with our original mentor. We should ascribe our life to his teaching. We should ascribe ourselves as his disciples. We should not begrudge our lives. Do you understand? That's what President Toda is saying. Everybody's with me? I'm not being overly dramatic. I'm saying it straight up. Speaking of the proud and solemn faith that is the hallmark of the Soka Gakkai, Mr. Toda also said, lots of stars, listen. The Daishonin's assertion to be praised by fools, that is the greatest shame, was the motto and creed of founding Soka Gakkai President Tanesaburo Makaguchi as he strove to realize the widespread propagation of the correct teaching of Buddhism. True to these words, President Makaguchi did not regard it as shameful to undergo criticism or attack for the sake of the Lotus Sutra. That's why I could give a shit what Mark Rogow has to say. Based on his conviction that being praised by fools is the greatest shame, while being praised by Nichiren Daishonin is the greatest honor. He died in prison for his efforts to propagate the essence of the Lotus Sutra. He died, President Makaguchi died in prison for his efforts to propagate the essence of the Lotus Sutra. The essence is the Soka philosophy that allows you to achieve Buddhahood in your present form. I believe his life offers an exemplary model for all practitioners of Nichiren Buddhism. Now that's Toda, who died in the 50s, saying that about Makaguchi. All right? Would we not say the same thing about Daisaku Ikeda right now for ourselves? Mm-hmm. And in another 3 generations, may they not be saying that about you? Mm-hmm. Don't underestimate your future and your mission. None of us should. Continuing on page 108. Sorry for the dogs barking. The honor of the votary of the Lotus Sutra that Nichiren taught, the honor of the votary of the Lotus Sutra that Nichiren taught Tokimitsu is also the lofty foundational spirit of the mentors and disciples of Soka. Because we of the SGI have practiced with this noble spirit, we have triumphed in every struggle and developed the great organization we have today. Continuing on page 108. Guarding against devilish functions. Going back to the Gosho, from the Gosho. If rumors spread that you appear to be a votary of Lotus Sutra, both those who are close to you and those who are not will unexpectedly admonish you as if they were your true friends, saying, if you believe in the priest Nichiren, you will be surely misled. You will also be in disfavor with your Lord. Then, because the plots that people devise are fearsome, even to worthy persons, you will certainly abandon your faith in the Lotus Sutra. Leave such people strictly alone. The time will certainly come when, by the workings of Brahma and Chakra and the other gods, the entire Japanese nation will simultaneously take faith in the Lotus Sutra. At that time, I am convinced many people will insist that they too have believed since the very beginning. Pardon me. From this section, Nichiren offers Tokimitsu specific advice on how to deal with this situation and points out areas he should pay attention to. The Nanjos were vassals of the Kamakura military government. As such, it was very difficult for Tokimitsu to remain a follower of the Daishonin amid the ongoing government opposition. No doubt his relations and other family members reproved him from going against the government stance. The Daishonin warns his young disciple that people feigning friendly concern will tell him, if you believe in the priest Nichiren, you will surely be misled. You will also be in disfavor with your Lord, noting that even wise persons can be taken in by others' evil machinations. He urges Tokimitsu to be on guard and not fall into the trap of discarding his faith in the Lotus Sutra. He's also warning him, don't listen to people that don't know what the hell they're talking about and give them the credence of thinking that they do. I mean, you should never let people that talk like that influence you. I mean, that automatically, is bullshit.
Yes.
All right? He then goes on to clarify the foundational pattern by which the devilish functions seek to obstruct the propagation of the correct teaching. The correct teaching. In the latter day, we say that's the Soka philosophy. Those possessed by a great devil will, once they succeed in persuading a believer to recant, use that person as a means for making others abandon their faith. As concrete examples of this, he cites the cases of Shobo, Notobo, and the lay nun Nagoe, who were once his disciples. I've watched Mark Rogow do this for years. He describes them as people who are greedy, cowardly, and foolish, like Mark, who nonetheless pass themselves off as wise persons. Those who only pretend to practice the correct teaching, People whose faith has no real substance easily succumb to the inroads of devilish functions. That's why I'm saying please chant about this. This is serious shit. When obstacles arise, they quickly abandon their faith and then use clever words to justify their actions and urge others to do likewise. I saw this to the max in the United States when the organization went split after the priesthood. After explaining this point, Nichiren says to Tokimitsu, if you allow yourself to be so persuaded, those in Suruga who seem to believe in the Lotus Sutra as well as others who are about to take faith in it will all discard the sutra without exception. I can't help feeling that he is trying to convey to Tokimitsu, you are the hope for Kosen Rufu and Suruga province, so please stand firm. And in saying so, President Kate is making that same declarative to all of us. All right? Wholeheartedly encouraging a single individual is the start of encouraging countless others, because one always leads to more than one. As such, ongoing, dedicated efforts to train and foster the precious young people in one's own local area into people of genuine commitment and faith form the eternal foundation for Kosen Rufu. So again, this is not talking about old farts like me. This is about all of you that have decades and decades of sustained strength and capability as younger people. Remember this, know this. For whatever reason, I'm not just talking to everybody around the table anymore. So this is going out to a bunch of people that I don't know in any other way other than you're listening to what I'm saying. And what I'm saying is what Daisaku Ikeda is saying. And what I'm saying is based on going on 50 years of my personal experience of understanding Daisaku Ikeda's teachings to be correct as I understand them based on the teachings of Nichiren Daishonin. Kosen Rufu will be achieved. Now, anybody that doesn't believe in that doesn't have actual faith. Right. In fact, if you think that that's a theoretical postulation or some baloney schmaloney kind of hot air, then you don't have faith. Because Kosen Rufu will be achieved was declared by Nichiren Daishonin. If Nichiren Daishonin declared it, it will occur. Period. All right? So you cut yourself off from the benefit of faith if you can't understand that truth. That if the Daishonin said it, go with it. All right? Kosen Rufu will be achieved. Nichiren then writes, leave such people strictly alone. The time will certainly come when, by the workings of Brahma and Chakra and the other gods, the entire Japanese nation will simultaneously take faith in the Lotus Sutra. First, he warns Tokimitsu not to be swayed by malicious individuals like a Mark Rogao and their scheming to make him discard his faith. Then he declares, no, I'm mentioning Mark over and over again for a reason. This Gosho lecture is about him. He is a devilish function. You know how I feel. Sorry, I can't hold that back. Then he declares that the time will definitely come when the mystic law will spread far and wide throughout the land. This, he says, is due to the workings of heavenly deities such as Brahma and Chakra. In the selection of time, which we've all, it's on video. You don't have to read it. You can watch it. He explains in detail the various trials and calamities activated by the heavenly deities will awaken people to the correct teaching of Buddhism. What did he just say? How long did it take to read the selection of time? Like almost 4 hours, right? Okay, so in that 4-hour reading Gosho, he goes into a lot of things. That's why I read it, to make sure it's, it's like the Mueller report in America. Nobody read it, okay? It's if it's too long, people won't read it. So I read it. If you read it, when we talked about this virus that's going around and me saying, everybody should be wearing masks because there's a really serious infection that's infecting the world right now. I'm dead serious because he says here, in the selection of time, Nichiren, explains in detail the various trials and calamities activated by the heavenly deities that will awaken people to the correct teaching of Buddhism, because the rug fell out from under them, the floor fell out from them. How did the Kosen Rufu of Japan occur? Only because of the total annihilation and destruction and loss, a freaking atomic bomb, a couple of them. I guess that's a little bit of a calamity. That's what established that movement there. So the rest of the world may have to go through something very difficult for Kosen Rufu to occur. In other writings, the Daishonin declares, when great evil occurs, great good follows. That's when we come up behind all of the difficulties and say, Shantaimoku, you can make this change. Since great slander already exists in our land, the great correct law will spread without fail. Great evil portends the arrival of great good. In all of Jampadvipa, the entire world, if all of Jampadvipa, the entire world, were to be thrown into chaos, there could be no doubt that this sutra would be widely propagated throughout Jampadvipa. Okay, what did he just say there? I'll read it again. Great evil, portends the arrival of great good. If all of Jampadvipa, the entire world, were to be thrown into chaos, there could be no doubt that this sutra, the Lotus Sutra, but it's the latter day of the law, so Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, would be widely propagated throughout the world. So he's qualifying that it's probably going to be an event that's going to drive people toward this circumstance of embracing something they've never embraced before, just like it happened after World War II in Japan. Now, what's going to be required for that to be a functional opportunity, though? People that understand the correct teaching, that are there with the ability to say, hey, you've got suffering. I can help you remove that. You're going to remove it yourself. You're going to remove it through the power of your own life. He says, the deeper the darkness, the closer the dawn. Since great evil is a harbinger of great good, it indicates that a momentous step forward in Kosen Rufu is on the horizon, based on the way the world looks right now. At such times, Nichiren says in this letter, many people will insist they too have believed since the very beginning. At the very bottom of page 109, second column. Nichiren wishes to see the emergence of a steady stream of disciples. Come on, old suit people, that's us, who will join him in the great struggle for Kosen Rufu. One person of genuine commitment leading to another, and growing to 2, 3, and then 100. Kosen Rufu is the expansion of this engaged gathering of the bodhisattvas of the earth. Did he say Kosen Rufu is the expansion of this engaged gathering of the Soka Gakkai? No. He went a step deeper. Because this isn't just Soka Gakkai. This is bodhisattvas of the earth. These are people that attain Buddhahood in their present form. Just being a member of the SGI doesn't establish that. Only following to the very end of your life, the teaching as it's been prescribed allows that. This writing brims with the Daishonin's aspiration, first column 110, page 110. This writing brims with the Daishonin's aspiration that his youthful followers will strive as the protagonists of Kosen Rufu, as is Daisaku Ikeda exhorting all of us. Inheriting the vision of my mentor, Josei Toda, I forged ahead with this conviction of being a protagonist of Kosen Rufu. I took it upon myself to be a leader, to be a teacher. And I took all the shit from everybody that said I was arrogant to do that. I encouraged members who were worn down by the storms of karma and discouraged by life's difficulties, the entire destruction of their nation. I chanted with all of my heart and being for them to be able to understand the teaching that I had been allowed to understand. And I pressed forward tirelessly with hope and courage to open the way to a brighter future by explaining this teaching that my mentor taught him and that his mentor taught him. It was one daunting mountain after another. The road was never easy. This will always be the case. How cool to know in advance, right? So it won't be a shock when it's like that, right? We've already been advised. Expect it. Don't be thinking something's wrong when it occurs. Something right is occurring. Kosen Rufu is an unprecedented endeavor for the happiness of all humanity, not just for those of us that practice Nichiren Buddhism. Precisely because it is so difficult, the benefit we accrue through our efforts is immeasurable Buddhahood that is eternal. Okay? It requires, precisely because it is so challenging, it requires young people who will stand up and shoulder the task. Now, I've done my best, but I'm old now. This is for people younger than me. I'm in my mid-60s. I'm going into my late 60s, for Christ's sake. But a lot of you don't think of me that way, but that's the truth. Some of you are still in your 50s, 40s, 30s. People in their 20s. I don't think there are anybody in their 20s around this table. But
yeah.
you all understand what I'm saying. All right? The Daishonen's call, which is the call to each of us, not just to Tokimitsu. The Daishonen's call to Tokimitsu to be a protagonist of Kosen Rufu is, at the same time, a heartfelt cheer of support for all Soka youth. Because it's the same freaking connection and message and relationship, frankly. Nanjo Tokimitsu is not a closer disciple of Nichiren Daishonin than any of you are. Period. You should know that. You're all original disciples of the original teacher. You can't be his disciple unless you're original disciple. It's a fact. Second column, page 110. Well, I might actually get this done right on time. Now is the crucial moment, and it is. There have been instances in which those who governed 1,000 or 10,000 cho of land had their lives summarily taken and their estates confiscated over trifling matters. If you give your life now for the sake of the Lotus Sutra, what is there to regret? Shamelessly pretending friendship, your foes will try to maneuver you into recanting with the intention of later laughing at you and letting others ridicule you as well. Let them say all they have to say. Then tell them, instead of advising me in the presence of many people, why don't you admonish yourself first? With this remark, abruptly rise from your seat and depart. And I don't know about the rest of you, but we just got a shocking reminder in real life of this this past weekend when, basketball great Kobe Bryant, basically, along with his daughter, died in an unexpected helicopter crash. I mean, he had a life unlike most people. A lot of people would have loved to have lived the life that that didn't keep him from losing all of that unexpectedly at a moment when it did. There's nothing to protect yourself from karma. Okay? The thing that we're able to do is to lead a life of faith to the last moment, no matter when that last moment is. Okay? He says, continuing with his advice to Tokimitsu about how he should behave to attain victory over devilish influences, the Daishonin teaches that the most important thing of all is remaining steadfast in faith. Period. Faith, 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 faith. For even those with vast estates, he says, may lose their lives because of some minor event and have their estates confiscated. Compared to that, there can be nothing to regret about the opportunity to give one's life for the Lotus Sutra. He elaborates by citing examples from the Sutra's Bodhisattva Medicine King burned his own body for 1,200 years and became a Buddha. King Suzudan made a bed of his own body for his teacher for 1,000 years. As a result, he was reborn as Shakyamuni Buddha. Both of them obtained their advanced spiritual states by persisting in their Buddhist practice, in pursuit of attaining enlightenment and enabling others to do the same. The Daishonin then goes on to say, make no mistake, if you abandon your faith in the Lotus Sutra now, you will only make yourself the laughingstock of your foes. Shamelessly pretending friendship, they will try to maneuver you into recanting, with the intention of later laughing at you and letting others ridicule you as well. Let them say all they have to say. Then tell them, instead of advising me in the presence of many people, why don't you admonish yourselves first? With this remark, abruptly rise from your seat and depart. The Daishonin, lots of stars here. The Daishonin consistently urges Tokimitsu to speak out bravely for his beliefs. That's what I'm doing. To be mentally prepared, I am, and to be unafraid, I am. He tells him to the effect, clearly and boldly refute falsehoods. So anybody that thinks that I'm being arrogant in my attitude as I talk each Wednesday, I am not trying to be arrogant in any way, but I do have a hell of a lot of conviction in what I'm saying because it's worked for me for almost 50 years. Now is the crucial time, President Ikeda says, fulfill your vow. That's what this is all about. This is all about fulfilling your vow. Nothing more, nothing less. Can't fulfill it if you don't realize you made one. In this way, Nichiren outlines the spirit that all of his youthful followers should embody. That's why I'm trying to share it with you. It is none other than the fighting spirit of the ever youthful SGI, which never gives up until it achieves victory. No circumstance goes undefeated. The essence of dialogue is courage and dynamism. You never limit yourself or the things that you can do. The only way to vanquish devilish functions is with a mighty lion's roar. That's invincible faith without doubt. He indicates, therefore, that youth need to face up to powerful opponents and challenge difficulties. When people screw with you, you don't have any back down. And when you're faced with difficulties, you overcome them to prove the validity of your manner of practice. A powerful opponent makes us strong. They're our friend. And difficulties represent opportunities for doing our human revolution, revealing to ourselves that we are actually the Buddha. Everybody's with me, right? You all understood that. It's very important. All are capable people. All have a mission. In July 1957, at the Osaka rally, I delivered a declaration of our members' determination to fight against the devilish nature of the authorities. At the Soka Gakkai headquarters leaders meeting the following month, that was what was it that Mr. Toda emphasized above all? We are all certain to attain happiness through the practice of Nichiren Buddhism. He called on leaders to offer warm guidance to the members and help everyone experience the joy of embracing faith in the mystic law. At this time, the Greater Block system was established in Tokyo, and I was appointed Katsushika Ward Greater Block Leader. I threw myself into Soka Gakkai activities, and from September, a new groundswell of regional kosarufu began to sweep the nation. Pardon me again. Thank you, baby doll. That's my wife to my left. I threw myself into Soka Gakkai activities from September and from September, a new groundswell of regional kosarufu began to sweep the nation. 55 years have passed since then, as of 2012 when he wrote this. In both my summer block guidance campaign in Arakawa and my subsequent efforts in Katsushika, Katsushika Greater Block Leader, I emphasized home visits and personal guidance to establish strong ties with individual members. Before and after meetings, wanting to make the most of every moment. I went to visit one member after another at their homes. When I only had time for a short chat at the door, I always promised to stop by again. Making a note of everyone's name and address, I often sent them postcards later with an encouraging message. I also held informal meetings and question and answer sessions so that members could get to know me and one another. I listened to young men having trouble at work and men with family problems. I chatted with them and encouraged them with all my heart. I was in earnest. I tried my hardest. I wanted everyone to fully savor the joy of practicing Nichiren Daishonen's teachings. All people have a mission that is theirs and theirs alone. All are capable individuals. All are comrades who share profound karmic connections. We're all bodhisattvas of the earth. We're all disciples of the original teacher. The way to foster people is to meet people. It is important to actively reach out and engage with others. Steadily, ongoing grassroots activities, discussion meetings, home visits, personal guidance, question and answer sessions, informal meetings are the key to victory. So anybody says you can't have an informal meeting, tell them to go kiss your ass. Read Daisaku Ikeda's guidance. The SGI has been successful in its endeavors because of this solid track and record of steady, consistent efforts like flowing water. This formula will never change, This formula will never change, and I would like to say we must never allow it to change. Kosen Rufu in our local areas is a movement to spread joy and hope toward life through our communities. We who uphold the mystic law are responsible for the happiness of our communities. We are the pioneers. Through Nichiren Buddhism, through Nichiren Daishonen's sincere encouragement, Nanja Tokimitsu grew into a leader of Kosen Rufu in Suruga province. In the same way, let us open a new age of Kosen Rufu in our communities with youth in the lead. Let's meet with the youth. Let's foster the youth with all our strength. And may our youth in turn stand up to play a leading role for the happiness and welfare of their communities. And that's the end of this lecture. But I did want to mention, in keeping with all of this, I've already said, if anybody ever wanted to write me something personally, you can reach me at oldsoup with 2 P's, OLDSOUPP @gmail. But I also got a personal text message from our friend Rhonda, who watches this on Facebook, and it's come up again, so I'm going to go ahead and mention it now. The request is that group, I guess, and I don't do the Facebook thing, as you all know, much to my chagrin, but that's an open group, right? And so there's some concern that people feel that if it was a closed group, that people would be more open to expressing themselves personally or whatever. Sling, you happen to be here tonight. I'm just letting you know, Rhonda wrote to me again. Rhonda, I'm talking to Sling right now. And so the suggestion has been made. So within the group, will you address that as an issue to let people know that there's a reason why it either is or isn't, and how that can be mitigated or not mitigated? Because I really don't, that's really all of the credit for the Facebook group really belongs to Sling. She's the one that, and George and everybody, pardon me. I don't really have anything to do with the Facebook group myself because I don't share my data with anybody. So watch on YouTube. But at any rate, we should maybe consider that or think of a way for
Make
people
it private?
if people have questions or they feel self-conscious about expressing things about themselves that they don't want the whole world to see or to know, I could understand that. And we should just be mindful of that being an issue for some people, as it is evidently for Rhonda, because this is the second time she's requested this. So let's try to be considerate and let everybody know that we certainly appreciate all of your time and all of you listening, and thank you for being with us again this week, and let's have a great 2020 together. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you.